And then we did a music video for The Brat and Notorious B.I.G. They stand out. Yeah.
Hey, we are sitting amongst the greatest.
I can't do no small talk, no small talk. I'm not with the small talk. Can't be with the small talk.
I am hanging out with award-winning award-winning casting director, and I'm also hanging out with Mandla Dube, who's the director, producer, co-screenwriter. Actually, I want to ask you, Mandla, I didn't know what a cinematographer is when I was growing up. Okay. You know, in movies, you know, actors and directors, and that's it. And then until one time I got to be in a movie set. Actually, I was just exploring. I was in high school. And then I saw so many people. I was like, what are they doing, these people? Why are they here? I thought, you know, it's just like one person who the director's like, read your script, act. So can you just like elaborate for young Masegos out there? Okay. What is cinematography?
Okay, thanks for having us here. Thanks to Ayanda, you know, for his humility and his patience and for Arif, and I think for the folks at Arif Film Festival for organizing this, and it just shows the love and the passion for the young Masegos out there who want to get into the industry, because film festivals are a great place to network and meet people and learn how to take the craft forward. So for the young Masegos, when you come onto set or a film, you will find that there are people that have been doing this for a very, very, very long time. Yeah. And you won't feel alone. And fortunately, when you get into the industry, there's a process of starting as an internship, as a production assistant, and so forth. And then you work your way up. Now, in the cinematography department, which is traditionally known as the camera department or the lighting cameraman department, you find that at the head of it, it's very like military in as far as the department is concerned. It's structured. So you have a cinematographer at the top, and that cinematographer takes instructions or collaborates with the director based on what the screenplay that they are doing or whatever, if it's a commercial, whatever scene that they have to do, if it's a music video, whatever the song that they've agreed on in the pre-production prep stage. So the cinematographer takes instructions from the director, and then the cinematographer collaborates with the production designer, with the lighting person, the gaffer, the key grip, and the camera operator. Or you'll find that the cinematographer sometimes will be operating the camera themselves, and then they'll have an assistant. That assistant pulls the focus, puts the lenses on, puts the camera up, the tripod. That's their function. And then that focus puller or first camera assistant will have a second camera assistant who helps them put the camera up, gets the camera cases from the truck, cleans the lenses, makes sure that there's no dust in the equipment and so forth, and then takes the information that's been recorded and puts it into a particular drive for the editor later on. And then that second assistant has normally a PA or a loader. Back in the day, I started as a loader, and then they put the film onto the camera magazines, and then they hand them to the second assistant. The second assistant gives it to the focus puller, and the focus puller puts it on the camera, and the operator or the cinematographer operates that whole contraption called the camera department or the camera itself. And then there's a PA who helps to get them coffee, who helps them to make sure that their rooms are air conditioned, and that kind of stuff. So when you come into the film set, you'll find that it's very structured in that way. Every department has a HOD. Yeah. Whether it's makeup, camera, costume, wardrobe, the directing department, the actors casting department, which is what Ayanda
is doing.
It does very well.
Yes.
Appreciate it.
Well, we don't.
That's a whole masterclass gone.
Yes. Actually, we don't have a PA here for the air cons, but I promise next time when you come.
I used to be a PA. I used to get coffee and fan my cine. Oh, I've done a lot of things.
Every time. Okay, cool. Ayanda, you started as a casting director.
No. No, I didn't start as a casting director.
Yeah.
I think firstly, thank you for having us. Such a privilege to sit next to Mandla. These are people we really look up to, and I think it's important that we start hearing their voice. So Mandla, thank you so much for making the time.
Thank you.
And I know how hectic you are. So I started as an actor actually, but anxiety got the best out of me. It was just a lot because it's a lot psychologically and otherwise. But also I've always appreciated the art of just observing the actor work, just what goes into it for the actor. So that's where like my passion started, and that sort of grew into loving the space of acting, and hence we started the organization called Actor Spaces.
Yes.
Because we wanted to build a community for actors, where they could find a space that they are seen. And that's how I got into it. And then how it led to ERIF is that in 2018, I got an award from the SAFTAs.
Golden Horn,
yes. For the Youth Achiever Award for the work we're doing as Actor Spaces, which is recognizing actors, doing their workshops, making the craft more accessible, or creating that continuous space of learning, whether you're from university or you can't access university. And then I think the Global Citizen was coming in 2018, and they were seeking sort of events that could support the festival. And then met Kweku Mandela and Lala, and they said, what can we do to really empower the space? And we thought a film festival would be very ideal, but not just an everyday festival. We wanted to create a festival of impact, a festival of community. For the longest time when I went to festivals, I didn't feel like I belong, because they were like all these cool guys with cool bags and stuff. And but we wanted to create a festival that's very accessible, and that speaks to transformation as well for the industry. I like the question that you asked Mandla and how he broke it down, because we need to get to a point where we understand the value chain of filmmaking.
Yes.
I feel like there's not a lot of elements that are spoken about. It's still a very expensive exercise. So those conversations in terms of how do we make it accessible, how do we make it accessible for the young Masego, or for that child who's growing up in Soweto, who's got the stories, but they don't know how to put that out there.
That podcast comes in. Okay.
Yeah.
Let's then talk about. I was at the SAFTAs.
Sure.
Speaking of the Golden Horn, and Tate Jerry Mofokeng.
Sure.
I hope I'm getting his name correct.
Yes.
Tate Jerry Mofokeng said something very interesting that I think a lot of industries struggle with. He was like, casting directors, please get actors who have studied this.
Followers.
Don't get people who have followers. Don't get influencers,
Sure.
because it's very difficult as an actor to act against or with a wall.
Yeah.
I'm assuming it's somebody who can't act. That's actually what he said, not me. But with you as a casting director, the challenges of that, and also what do you think of the industry kind of doing that? I think we see it on some of our soapies locally as well.
Sure. Yeah, look, I think the respect for the art, for the craft needs to remain. That integrity needs to remain all the time, But also I think there is an evolution that's sort of happening from a digital era side of things. And probably we can't ignore it. It's happening, right? But I think for me, if the work that needs to always happen is just to serve the story. When creatives come together and there's a story that needs to be told, how best do we serve that story, and I don't want to be the guy who says, the content creators don't have a space within the world of storytelling. I think we all have a space and a voice.
I would love to challenge Tate Jerry. I would love to challenge Tate Jerry. I was there when he said that at the SAFTAs. I would like to challenge him. At the time I was like, he got a point.
Yeah.
But now that I've thought about it, and then we had a conversation as walking up into this recording now about the whole social media space, and TikTok is huge. In as far as people being able to create what you would call content. Now, content is great, but the craft of what it is that you're doing to create that particular what you would call content. I think that's where we need to lean into, right? And I listen to, so I also scroll through the I scroll and I'll find myself like, how do I respond to this? How do I do that? And then my kids will be like, no, Dad, do this. And like, Dad, come on, this is like, simple stuff. But I think what Bujeri is saying, yes, it's true. But if you rewind, when I started in music videos, I started shooting music videos. That's how I entered the industry as a cinematographer. I would shoot a lot of music. I shot a lot of music videos, a lot. and in that, you picked up guys that were coming in from the rap game, and they would go on to become actors, like guys at a group like Outkast. Outkast, Ice Cube,
Ludacris,
50 Cent.
Yeah, Ludacris, even Tupac, right? We when I was upcoming, those are music videos of folks that we used to shoot, and you'd see them migrate from the hip hop world in front of the camera into becoming actors, and they had currency, right? They disrupted the whole Hollywood system. Because for black actors or performers to make it in the Hollywood system, because of the whole military system, how it's set up, you got to have a certain number of films that you've made. You got to have made your rounds and all of that. And these guys came in there and said, can we curse here? No, maybe we can't. But, they were like, they disrupted that. They said, let's burn Hollywood and change it. And you saw the NWA and those kind of guys. So I would beg to differ, especially if you have influencers and guys that have a lot of following, but are willing to work on the craft, because it's a craft, right, of being able to be in front of the camera. So I saw that happen with music video, hip hop artists and so forth, who went on to become. If you look at something like Andre 3000.
Yes.
Andre, even some of the guys like CeeLo from what's that group that he started out with, Goody Mob, right? Those guys came from humble beginnings, and they would go on to become big, formidable performers in the industry and have created a following of understanding the value chain in the film industry or entertainment industry, and people are working. So I think what would be great is to see people like Bujeri, and I think we should try to set up a conversation with him on podcast or whatever to do that. If you pair somebody like Bujeri with an influencer or follower or whatever, can he not be able to impart the craft to that influencer, because he's been acting for a long time?
Yes.
You say, my dear influencer, and somebody who's followed by a lot of 2 million people on Instagram, whatever, or Facebook. Let me hold you by the hand and introduce you to this craft called acting. Performing, right? And then immediately you've kind of you've created a conveyor belt, right? Because now Bujeri is doing is interacting with somebody who's got 10 million followers, and guess what? Those 10 million followers are going to want to find out who is Jerry. Jerry is this guy who's acted. Let me see some of the films that he's done. Wow, right? So you've disrupted the space, right? So I think what he said is absolutely correct. But look at somebody like Ice Cube, who was not accepted by actors who had gone through the craft of learning, who were thespians and so forth. But he worked at it, and he ended up becoming.
And he's one of the big actors we know
He's one of the biggest. He's one of the best. Some people don't even know that he came from rap.
Yes. Actually, you can.
Sorry. I just wanted to add on what Mandla was saying in terms of disrupting the industry as well, especially because our industry is not well documented. Like
True.
we don't document a lot in South Africa, right? So the chances of how many people know these icons, chances of how many people know Ntate Jerry, you know, it's crazy. If you even when you Google, there's so much limited information. So creating that cross sort of
Cross-pollination.
it does sort of integrate the audiences. You know, it's crazy. But also, what I've picked up during the casting process is that most of these influencers, I was casting Bettina Wetu and we cast Coconut Curls,
Okay, coconut
only
milk.
to discover that she studied acting.
Acting.
She was an actor first, but she was struggling probably to get into the industry and found this alternative space to express herself. So now you find most of these influencers, most of them are actors, but they couldn't get into the industry and found alternatives. But as soon as that picks up, now they feel like, oh, now I can access the space because they feel wanted within the space as well. But by the time we see them acting, we're like, you know, oh, you're an influencer. But no, I've got a BA in this. I studied this, you know. So there's that part of it as well.
That's very important,
Yeah.
what you're saying. I mean, and I absolutely agree with all of it. In addition to that, I was having a conversation with a thespian actor, you know, once, and she was saying, you got to be able to know that, okay, what I'm doing here is for the love of the craft, but it's also a business, right? In that business, there's revenue that has to be generated. In that business, there's bills that have to be paid. In that business, there's growth that has to happen. So you have to be able to find a balance. So this actress was saying that you've got to be able to know that I'm doing this because I'm working on this to be able to pay my mortgage. Like, you got to think of it that way. Or I'm doing this because I got to pay my children's fees. Or I'm doing this because now this particular one, I'm doing it because I love and I have the passion for the craft, so that I as an artist can be able to stay, you know, vibrating at a particular frequency that I appreciate as a vessel, right? Because you're an actor, you're a director, you're a cinematographer, production designer, editor. But you're a vessel. You're creating material that other people are going to see and experience, and in experiencing that, they will either laugh, they will either cry, or they'll be indifferent. But you've created material that will be appreciated. Now, some of the material is just popcorn entertainment.
Yes.
And some of the material is thought provoking. It's some kind of a consciousness that you want to bring out. I watched a film recently by Marty Scorsese, Killers of the Flower Moon, right? I mean, you got to see that on the big screen. That's not content. Right? It's not content. You know, it's not something like, oh, it's content, I'll flip over. It's something that
you need to focus.
You have to focus, but it's layered on many levels of that. You have to be able to focus on what's Marty Scorsese's message in that. And he got a lot of criticism from indigenous folks or Native Americans, and in particular from the Osage community. Right now, if you don't, you have to watch the film. I'm not gonna obviously get into the whole, but it's all about how the white power structure in America, you know, took the wealth of the indigenous Native Americans who were pushed out of, the East Coast area into an area called Oklahoma. And once they found out, after taking their land and pushing them into Oklahoma, and they found out that, there's also oil here. Now let's push them out of that too. Right, but I mean that's this. But he told the story in a very entertaining way, that got you captivated and all of that. Now that wasn't bubblegum, popcorn, kind of thing. So you got to strike a balance to say, we're telling the story. What are we really saying when you make the story? So the craft comes in.
Yes, and then the collaboration actually works.
Collaboration.
Out.
I love that word.
I wanna take you back when you mentioned that you started shooting music videos. I just got chills.
You started music videos too?
Oh my gosh, I want to be in. No, I'm not. But I want to know what music videos stand out for you, or rapper that you've worked with really stand out for you?
Oh, jeez.
Because you mentioned
a
like
lot,
your
of
Ice
them.
Cube, your
A lot of them. A lot of them
Tupac,
stand out. I think. Yeah, I think the person that really stands out is somebody like Andre 3000
yeah.
from Outkast. You know, him and Big Boy. I studied in Atlanta, so they are from Atlanta, ATL. So that for me, in as far as hip hop is concerned, another artist that stands out would be Hugh Masekela.
Yes.
I did him a music video for him, his first music video
That's
when he came back
insane.
home. Yeah, Hugh, he stands out. And then I did something with Arrested Development like years back. They stand out. And then we did a music video for The Brat and Notorious B.I.G. They stand out. Yeah.
Hey, we are
So-
sitting amongst the greatest.
Yeah, and yeah, I mean, yeah.
That's dope. But anyway, yeah, let's kind of. Okay, the films that you worked on, Jiva.
Yeah, so I did a series for Netflix. I directed some episodes on a series titled Jiva.
Kalushi.
I directed Kalushi, the story of Solomon Matlangu. I did Silverton Siege with Netflix as well. It came out last year. Did some as a cinematographer. I did Sobukwe Great Soul, which was directed by Miki, and as a camera assistant, I worked on The Italian Job, Men in Black 2, and shot a whole bunch of music videos.
Okay, cool. Let's talk about Arif now,
Yes.
which is why we are here.
Earth has always been about impact, social impact, and we remain very true to that, but also just making film accessible. You know, it's an art of appreciation, so we really, really want to open it up. Our theme this year is Africa in Frame. So, and that's really inspired by the appetite as well for just global markets really, really seeing our stories and seeing value in our stories as well. But also with that as well, African Frame, we wanted to push the dialogue around ownership of the industry. We feel like it's still not within the hands of the people that are creating it. So we want to really, dive deep in those dialogues and stuff like that. And I think why we said Mandla as well is like the art of like just how he tells his stories that are so focused on the truth as well.
Yeah.
And I want to ask him if that's like an intentional focus as well, where you're telling like historical like stories and stuff.
Yeah, I that's a good question because my process is informed by organically what happens in as far as collaborating with actors and cinematographers, production designers, and so forth. But I'm a student of history, right? I studied radio, TV, and film. But then, in studying radio, TV, and film, you're taking cinematography here and there, and then the instructors are asking you, like, what are you going to say with this equipment that, because anybody can be able to take a piece of camera and
shoot,
you can set it, you can do that. Like, oh, this is how you frame, this is how you pan left, right? But what are you saying with that tool? What is a painter saying with their brush, right? When they're painting, what is a poet saying with the words that they say, that they utilize? So I studied African history, and in studying African history, I came across a lot of research that had been done in as far as our journey is concerned as a people, which I was not seeing on the screen. And I was like, wow, And at the time when I entered the industry, the big influencer, and as far as filmmaking concerned, was Spike Lee and John Singleton and Haley Garima. And some of the anthropologists like Sheikh Anta Diop were very big, Dr. Yosef Ben Yochanan. So I studied a lot of that work, and I said, okay, well, let me marry heritage to that. So if you look at, for instance, Kalushi, Silverton Siege, and obviously Sobukwe and so forth. But Kalushi, Silverton Siege, and The third installation would be the Rivonia trial. I'm curating stories that took place in Pretoria, now Tshwane, and that's the common character in all those stories. It's the city of Tshwane, or which was the citadel of apartheid at the time. So in order to be able to strike the power structure that created apartheid, the Mkhonto weSizwe, the MK, targeted the head of the snake, which was the capital of the country,
Pretoria.
right? Pretoria. So I come from that angle, and then obviously for me to tell those stories in an entertaining way, so that you are not just being given a history lesson, you are being entertained in the process. So that's I don't know if that answers your question.
It does.
in
It
a
does.
nutshell.
Thank you so much for that. I don't know. I took over. Sorry. I was
No,
just.
you
Yeah.
I thought,
can.
let me
You
take
gotta
advantage.
disrupt.
Keep on
You gotta take
asking.
over. You don't take over. But the thing as well with what Ayanda said earlier on, it's the issue of value chain and ownership of IP. I think actors need to start saying, I mean, obviously you do it with your, I don't know, second or third picture, like depending on how, with the whole strike that happened, right?
Yeah.
In Los Angeles with SAG-AFTRA, it becomes important that you can be able to say as an actor, no, I also want to be able to have producing points on the film. If you want to be able to work with me on this, you really like me, you want to cast me, okay, I'll do it, but also give me a producing credit. Right, because then you're starting to assert yourself as a brand, you build a profile and all of that. You know what I mean? So, having said all that, I don't even know how to use Instagram. But it's. But Masego says she'll teach me.
She's committed. Eh?
She's committed.
Can you use TikTok?
I'm here as well.
No.
No, let's start with Instagram.
Twitter.
Then we'll grow.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
we're starting with Insta. Even the pictures we have to
No,
put.
but I think I'm gonna get someone who can assist me with that. I see the value of it, because now
Yes.
I've been told like you gotta see this value in it, packaging, and that's a big part of where as African creatives we kind of fail. We fall short because we don't package ourselves. I mean, the United States is the biggest market in the world, fact, right? And if you don't know how to package yourself that in that market, that they can appreciate and be able to, look at the stuff that you do, then you're kind of missing the game in as far as the value chain. Yes, it's very important to have local material that you do here in South Africa that can be seen and to be enjoyed and all of that. But cinema should go global. It's one of the most universal languages that we have,
I think that will help also young people too, because sometimes when you look up to people and you see them on TV, you want to feel like you are the friend as well. And social media makes it easier for, if I want to speak to Abut Mandla, I can just DM him. And be like,
if there's anybody who's interested in becoming an intern, they must DM me, you said? They must DM me, and then they must DM me and come and manage my social media.
Let's go.
Yes.
That'll be great.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Let's talk about the major achievements, Arif,
Yeah.
in the past, I think 6 years, because last year was
Sure.
5 years.
Sure. That's,
You guys are really
sure.
growing.
That question got me. I think for us the big one is being 6. I think that's a big one. So I guess the biggest achievement is consistency, that we've done it for the last 6 years in very tough conditions where financing film festival feels like a luxury, for where our country is. So I think big ups for us and the team to really keep going and just making stories accessible. I like saying we like saying that if we have to document our country, and the best way is like really to showcase those stories, because then without those stories, it's like we are a continent without a photo album, and that's like, so these stories are so important for us to reflect ourselves within them. So I think that's another big achievement, that we get to allow Africans to see themselves in a very beautiful light, because we're very conscious in terms of how we curate this content. We go for filmmakers that are showing Africans in the most beautiful way. I like what Mandla was saying now in terms of finding the art of packaging ourselves. One of our objectives is that we need to find a way to affirm our stories and affirm its currency as well, so that we can export it globally. But the big thing is packaging. We've got beautiful stories, but it's how we package it to export it. So we've done a lot of that teaching as well within the years, but also, I mean, we opened the festival with Matwetwes 6 years ago.
Wow.
And you look at where
6 years,
it's been 6 years, and you look at where Matwetwe is, where Diprente is from a storytelling perspective. But there's all these beautiful stories. But what really gets us excited as well is when we hear stories that, I met Mandla at the festival and now we are working on this. And there's beautiful stories like that where we find these films that started at the festival or projects that started at the festival. And that's why we exist. So we've got so many beautiful stories. But also the Film Child. So we've got a program called the Film Child, where we take young kids from different communities to watch films
movies
for the first time. So this is their first experience in a big screen,
Please go to
popcorn.
Masego as well.
This year we're doing Northwest. Today we're doing Northwest. Yesterday we
Hey,
did
which
Limpopo.
city?
Wow.
Which town?
Mahlatsane.
Mahlatsane. In
Mahlatsane.
next stop.
Yes.
Okay.
So there's a screening that happened today. There are
That's
10
dope.
plus 100 kids
Sure.
and Limpopo, and tomorrow it's Southgate and Sentin, and the Sentin kids are coming from Alex. So that's beautiful because film is an art of appreciation. So we have to start it at a very young age as well. But also just cultivating that imagination. We know what stories did for us. So we just want to impact that as well. So you can imagine we've been doing this from year one to now. So you can imagine how many kids have seen films for the first time in their lives through Arif. So so we've got
that's
all these
dope.
beautiful milestones,
Yes.
I'm getting goosebumps now because just like you must see the magic in their face when they come out from the cinemas. And most of them are from orphanage homes. So they would have never had an opportunity probably to go to a
They
cinema.
wouldn't even know how it looks like.
So we partnered with Indigenous and Stekinico for this. Indigenous gave us a beautiful film called Headspace animation, which is another world as well. So where it still needs to be very localized, where these young people, when they go watch animation, they can see themselves as well. So we've got a lot I can go on about really what we've achieved. And we're very privileged and proud of the work that we've been doing.
Okay, yes, we have came to the end of the session, but I want to know like what's coming up, the future plans. But Mandla, I'm going to start with you. The future plans, what are you planning to do? I mean, you are planning to open your Instagram account and other things, but then I want to know.
It's not active.
And I'm here to work with you in terms of that.
Okay,
But
thanks for that offer. Yeah,
Yes.
definitely we'll collaborate on that. I love the word, and I've been hearing it a lot. I've used it and all of that, called curatorship. I just recently curated the Cultural Heritage Program for AGOA. AGOA is the Africa Growth Opportunity Act, which looks at 35 sub-Saharan countries and them being able to access each other's market, but also packaging to come out of Africa into the US, right? It's a strictly into that. But also looking into the East, right? We've also got BRICS, right? So for me, what's next is being able to listen carefully what the likes of Black Coffee are doing,
Yes.
what the likes of Sia Collis are doing with Springboks, what the likes of Nasty C are doing, what the likes of Dr. Precious Motsepa are doing with fashion, what the likes of folks in literature are doing, like Zakes Mda, and say, okay, let's connect the dots. Let's look at opening this up more, the value chain. How do we add value to what we're doing from a trade standpoint, right? And for me, next is to go and knock on the door of the Ministry of Trade and Industry to say, hey, we are an industry and we need to go to Treasury in South Africa that we could be given more resources to expand and grow this industry more so that it can be able to stay alive. What's for me next, it's also how do we encourage more people to go to cinemas?
Yes.
Right? We're seeing the decline because the streamers have come in. Now, streamers are IT companies. They're not really, film. As much as also people who run cinemas are exhibitors and so forth. But what are we saying as creatives, as people who are curating our livelihoods, as African people, and are we really creating content, or are we creating material that becomes an archive and a heritage that 1,000 years from now, when you look at what Ayanda, Masego, Mandla, and them did in this space, you can be able to say, that's what they were saying. Let me have a dialogue with what they were, what my ancestors, if 1,000 years from now were saying. So that for me is next, is to say, okay, how do we elevate ourselves into curatorship, so we're not just creating content, right? Does it make sense what I'm saying?
Yes.
Right? Like, we're really curating a space on a vertical level. How are we going to manage the universe as creators coming out of, here? Folks made science fiction films, and those science fiction films have influenced governments to say, okay, maybe we'll go and check out the moon.
I get you.
You know what I mean? What are we
Powerful.
saying here?
Yeah.
Like, what's the next frontier? So Africa is going to have the largest number of young people in 2030. What stories are they going to be
Telling.
telling and seeing? What are they going to be consuming?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And what's their archive as
What's
well?
their archive? That's key.
That's powerful.
Interesting.
That's what's next for me.
Ayanda?
Sure. After that, I need to go look
We
at my
need to
goals
put a stamp
again
and
and
be
stuff. Yeah. No, I mean, ERF is like the most immediate thing when I get through that. But I've got amazing work coming out. We've got Yo Christmas coming out on Netflix, which I was casting director for that this December. So I'm excited about that. And yeah, there's a lot of projects that we're working on that just keeps us excited and reminding us why we love what we do.
All right. Thank you so much for coming, gentlemen. Thank you so much. Tune in again to my YouTube channel. I'm joking.
Yeah.
This is YouTube channel?
The-
Shout out to Masego on YouTube, yo.
It's not
Yeah,
my
shout
YouTube
out
channel.
to-
It's 5FM. Go to
Shout out
the
to
5FM app.
5FM. Shout out to Masego.
Yeah.
Shout out to Dale.
Dale.
Shout out to Perrin.
Shout out to Perrin.
Shout out to
Well
the
done,
crew.
guys. Yeah, the crew is always
Cheers.
important.
Thanks,
yeah.
guys.
This is 5